What's up, Heckling fandom? It's your boy JJ. We got another solo episode here. I wasn't able to attend the Thursday episode. I had a family obligation, so I am making it up to you with this special edition DFS episode brought to you on this Friday. And congratulations, you don't have to listen to Ron and Joe bicker like an old married couple, so it ought to be a fun episode. So it's time for garbage time. What's up, guys? I hope everyone is having a fantastic Friday. Like I said, this is a DFS episode. It's kind of a special episode, maybe something that we'll do in the future. But I like to get on 2 episodes a week. I had to miss yesterday due to a family obligation. So I figured I would create this content for you. So we're going to go game by game on the games in the main slate. There's 10 games this week. So we'll cover that. We'll talk about prices, ownership, some other stuff, and let's get into it. But before we do that, I think there's some news that needs to be discussed that has come out here. So let's get into that.
News updates.
So the biggest piece of news to come out today, obviously, is that Nick Chubb is out this week. So he has been dealing with a calf injury that kind of popped up after the game. Hadn't practiced all week, and today they officially ruled him out. So he will not be playing this Sunday versus Arizona. Kareem Hunt has not been ruled out yet. He has a wrist and knee injury, so he's banged up too. So that leaves Demetri Fenton and then also Dearness Johnson. Now, I don't know if you guys remember Dearness Johnson, but he did a nice job filling in last year when Kareem Hunt was out. So he's kind of an explosive guy. If given the opportunity, he could be fantasy viable. However, I wouldn't rush to go out and add him. I think Hunt did end up practicing today, so he's banged up, but he most likely is going to play. So Demetri Felton may work in on a little bit of the passing work, but Hunt has kind of been the primary receiving back for the Browns this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dearness Johnson got in, but I wouldn't expect much. Another big piece of news that has come out is that Terry McLaurin was a non-participant at today's football team practice. So he has a hamstring issue that I'm not sure if it's something that's been bothering him or if it's something that maybe happened at practice yesterday. But that's a big blow to the football team and also to DFS because Terry McLaurin is one of the highest projected owned wide receivers this week. So obviously in a big matchup with the Chiefs, people thought there's going to be fireworks. And there still may be, but that's not a good sign if he's popping up this late with a hamstring issue. Usually that means that it's something happened at practice. So just something to monitor. We got to keep an eye on it. And again, we'll let you know if something else pops up from that. But other than that, that's the main 2 pieces of news I had for you today. So let's go ahead and get into these game breakdowns. All right, guys, so game number 1, we have the Kansas City Chiefs going to Washington to play the football team. So this game is probably going to be the most played of the week. You have the Chiefs coming off that disappointing loss to the Bills in prime time. So obviously, everyone thinks and knows that they're going to come out hungry, want to put up a lot of points and blow out the football team. So you're going to see a lot of DFS action in this game. It's projecting to have some of the highest ownership percentages on the week. So you have at quarterbacks in this matchup, you have Mahomes at 8,300, and then you have Taylor Heineke at 5,800. I think both are viable, obviously. Mahomes is the highest priced QB this week, so a lot of times that deters ownership a little bit, but I still think he'll be pretty highly played. And then Heineke, of course, he's been putting up numbers. He's been putting up fantasy numbers this year with as bad as Washington's defense has been. So he's only 5,800. I expect pretty high ownership on him as well. So, and I think you'll see a lot of stacks come out of this game. Running back, you got Antonio Gibson at 6,500. You can run on the Chiefs, obviously. You can do everything on the Chiefs defense, actually. So he's viable. I don't think he'll be highly owned. I'm not going to have a lot of shares of him. Just the injuries freak me out. The shin injury. I know he got a lot of work last week, but He was limited again in practice today after practicing. I believe he practiced fully yesterday. Now he's limited. I just don't like the situation, and I think that the game script may not be in his favor. You have J.D. McKissick at 4,800. You could take a flyer on him, but he's not going to go insane and get you the big money numbers that you need. He's 4,800, so I probably would stay away from him. And then as far as the running backs for the Chiefs, you have Darrell Williams at 4,900. He's a pretty good bargain. I think he'll be highly owned this week. I'll play him in a couple lineups, not too much. I don't think his ceiling is crazy high this week. I could definitely see him getting in a couple times though, so he's definitely viable. And then Jerick McKinnon is 4,400. He'll be in the mix, I'm sure, in the backfield with Darrell Williams. So I probably would stay away from him unless you're playing in a bigger tournament and need a cheaper flyer that could pan out for 20 points. I think that's probably his ceiling in a crazy game. But I don't see him doing a lot this week. Receivers, obviously got Tyreek Hill. Today it was noted at the Friday practice that he was back and he looked quote-unquote normal. So look for him to be all systems go. I like Hill this week. I'll be playing a lot of him. Obviously, the Washington football team has been beat deep a lot this year. And if you've been beat deep a lot, the last guy you want to see on the other side is Tyreek Hill, and that's who they have. So I like Tyreek Hill a lot this week in DFS. And by the way, guys, I'm sorry. All these prices are DraftKings. So I do play FanDuel a little bit, and I played Super Draft before, but typically I just play DraftKings, and that's kind of what we do at garbage time is work to the DraftKings prices. But other receivers for the Chiefs, you have McCole Hardman at 4,200. That's pretty cheap for him considering the amount of targets he got last week. I think he had 10 or more targets last week versus the Bills. So, and I know Hill is a little banged up, but he's definitely someone you could play. I'm not playing a ton of him. I just can't trust him just based on this track record he's had. You know, things should be going his way in the offense he plays in, but for whatever reason, he just is not taking off like everyone thought he should. So I'm probably fading Hardman, except in tournaments and cash games and double up games. I'm probably stay away from him. Josh Gordon is 3,400. You saw him get slightly involved last week versus Buffalo. I don't know how much more they're going to incorporate him into the offense, but he's also a great cheap flyer if you're in a tournament or something and need someone you think may have low ownership. He's only $3,400. Obviously, you know, Josh Gordon's an athletic specimen. He can get down the field, and if Mahomes hits him on a couple of big, deep balls, he could pan out. Going to the other side of the receivers, Terry McLaurin, he's 7,100. I'm not too encouraged by the report that I talked about earlier. He did not participate in practice today with a hamstring injury, so that's a very bad sign. Not good. So hopefully he's able to play. I have him in a lot of lineups, and I don't want to have to go back through, but it's kind of seeming like I may have to if he's banged up. So just keep an eye on this. I know a lot of people have stacked the Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes and Hill, or Mahomes and Kelsey, and then come back with Terry McLaurin on the other side of that. So that's just something to keep an eye on. If McLaurin doesn't go, receiver-wise, I think De'Ami Brown is probably going to play this week. Curtis Samuel is out, so they'll be pretty limited. So that's just definitely a name to keep an eye on. Tight ends in this game will also be highly owned. Travis Kelce is $7,000. That's pretty cheap for what he typically is on DraftKings. And then on the other side, probably the guy that's going to have the highest ownership this week in DFS for the tight end position is Ricky Seals-Jones. He was only $2,500 last week, and everyone was in on it. And he panned out. He actually got a lot of targets. He was getting red zone targets. Heineke seemed to really trust him. So in a game that the football team's going to have to throw, I think he's going to get a lot of work. So Ricky Seals-Jones is a very viable option, especially if McLaurin's out and they're limited on pass catchers. This guy could be the limit for him, especially at $3,000. I think it's almost a lock that he outperforms that price. So look for Ricky Seals-Jones as a a low salary filler. You can even throw him in the flex if you play like Andrews, Waller, or Kelsey, one of the higher end tight ends. He's a cheap, viable flex option in DFS this week. So, like I said, I got a lot of action on this game. I've played quite a few stacks of Heineke and McLaurin coming back with Hill, and I'm probably going to have to adjust that if McLaurin's health is in question. So that's a big thing to keep an eye on. But yeah, this game will be big. So on to the next game. We have the Houston Texans going to the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. I don't think there's a ton of viable, playable guys here for DFS. Couple though. So you have the quarterbacks. You have Wentz at 5,400, and you have Davis, General Mills at 5,200. The two cheapest quarterback options, with the exception of Justin Fields this week. So I mean, if you're looking for a value play and you want to play those big backs, I know Dalvin Cook is 100% gonna play tomorrow or Sunday. So if you're trying to stack like Eckler and Cook and some of the bigger backs, maybe you go with one of these guys, but I'm not playing them. I'll probably play Wentz in the lineup or two, but other than that, I won't have a lot of action with these quarterbacks. Running backs in this game, you have Jonathan Taylor at 6,600, which isn't a bad value, especially for what he did on Monday night versus Ravens. So hopefully he can do that again, as I've acquired him in a league and I have him in a lot of other leagues. So I have a lot of shares of Jonathan Taylor, but that's me thinking selfishly. So 6,600, that's not bad. Obviously, it's a good matchup versus the Texans. They've given up almost 5 yards to carry to opposing running backs this season. So you like that. I think he could have a good day if they give him the volume, which he should. I don't think the game script would be too negative for the Colts in this one, obviously. So I think he's viable. Nyheim Hines, 4,800. Probably not going to play him. Unpredictable player, and his ceiling is pretty capped. So, and if you want to check out the running back situation for the Texans, go ahead and watch this. Yeah. So I won't be playing any Texans running backs probably ever this season, unless I just won't. So yeah, ignore them. Don't play any of them. The wide receivers, there's really two main guys on this matchup. You got Brandon Cooks for 5,800, which I don't mind. Obviously the Texans suck. Sorry guys, Texan fans that may be watching, but the Texans aren't very good, so they're having to throw every game. So he's relevant every game. He's going to get targets. The Colts secondary hasn't been very scary. You just saw what Hollywood Brown did to them as a speedy receiver. So there's definitely some upside playing Brandon Cooks, and I'll have a few shares of him this week. And then you have Michael Pittman on the other side, 5,500. He's really emerged as a target monster, and he's on pace for that 1,200 yards that I promised you he would get this season. So he's looked pretty good. The only kind of main question hanging in this game is T.Y. Hilton, who's priced out at 4,100 this week. If he comes back, how does that affect Michael Pittman? I'm not sure how that'll all play out. I personally do not think that he's going to play this week. Him himself didn't sound too confident, so I would look another direction if you're considering playing T.Y. Hilton anywhere. But yeah, so I don't mind those two receivers, and I'll play a little bit of each, but I won't be stacking this game most likely, and I won't have many players from it. So on to the next game. So this next game, near and dear to my heart, it is the Green Bay Packers heading to Chicago to play the Bears. So rivalry game, very excited for this Sunday. Watch the game with my dad. But anyways, let's get into this. So looking at the prices, so at quarterback, you have Aaron Rodgers as one of the higher priced guys this week, obviously at 7,200. And then you have Justin Fields, who is the cheapest starting quarterback this week at 5,100. So I'm not playing Fields. I've tried it a couple times this year and got burned. He's so cheap. It's so tempting because you see the ability, but I just can't do it right now. But one of these times he's going to pop off. But I'm not playing Fields, even though I think the game script may have him throwing more than he has been lately. So something to consider if you're looking to save a couple $100, if you're willing to take the flyer in a tournament, or you have the ability to put in a high volume of lineups. I'd maybe play him on 1 or 2 just to see what happens. He is kind of a guy that likes the big time stuff, the prime time stuff. So it's a big game. He could show out here. That's just me hoping, but you never know. Rodgers, the Bears have actually limited him pretty well at Soldier Field, so I don't think he's worth the price. For a similar price, you can have Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert, who I prefer to Rodgers this week. So I'm not playing any Rodgers this week. Yes, I know I'm a homer, but still, I'd play somebody against the Bears if I thought they'd be big. But I don't think Rodgers is going to have this huge game. The projected over-under for this game, I believe, is 44 points. So I think it'll be right around there, 24-20, 27-24 type game, right around that range. So I don't think it's going to be crazy. Running backs, you got Aaron Jones at 7,300, still nursing an ankle injury. He was limited Thursday. And then A.J. Dillon at 4,900, who's been getting more and more involved in the offense. The Bears have been pretty good against the run this year, even with Akeem Hicks out, which it looks like he may be out again this week. They've got a lot of big bodies in there that stuff the run pretty well, and they got some good backers. So they've been pretty stout against the run. And then on the Bears side of the ball, so I'm not playing any Packers running backs this week. On the Bears side, obviously we had the big news yesterday. Damian Williams is out with COVID. I know my fellow co-host Joe, I believe he said the Bears offense like a huge blow or something like that, losing Damian Williams. But if you watch the Raiders game, Khalil Herbert actually looked better as a runner than Damian Williams, in my opinion. He just needs to finish his runs a little bit. But I think he's going to be okay. You can run on the Packers. So now the strategy to beat the Packers, in my opinion, with their pass rushers injured and out and Jair Alexander on IR, in my opinion, you should attack them through the air with Justin Fields and use your receivers. But it's the Bears and the Matt Nagy offense. So I think they're probably going to try and run the ball. So I think Herbert is going to have between 20 and 25 touches this game. I know a lot of people think Damian Williams is the prime pass catcher, but if you watch a preseason, Herbert and Fields played a lot together, and Herbert was catching passes from Fields. So I think I wouldn't be shocked if he had 4 or 5 receptions this game, and he's faster than people give him credit for. He's the reason that he's been the return man this year for the Bears. So Herbert at 4,600, he's going to be highly owned, but I will have shares of him both in the flex and primary running back 1 and 2 spots this week. So just keep an eye on that and consider him. As far as the wide receivers, Devontae Adams is the highest priced receiver this week at 9,000. I'll say this for the Bears defense, their secondary has a couple guys that are younger. Eddie Jackson can't tackle anything. But the lone bright spot in the secondary, in my opinion, has been Jalen Johnson. He's been a lockdown corner. One of PFF's highest graded cornerbacks this year. He made their first quarter All-Pro team. So I'm not sure if the Bears are willing to shadow Adams with Jalen Johnson. And I don't think Jalen Johnson can completely shut down Devontae Adams, but I do think he can limit him to probably like 100 yards and a touchdown. And for $9,000, that's not worth it, in my opinion. For $9,000, you want him to have the game he had last week versus the Bengals. So I'm not playing Adams. Soldier Field obviously plays slower. The point totals are usually lower, and they got a cornerback that's capable of not shutting him down by any means, but slowing him down. So I'm staying away from Adams. I'm fading him this week. The Bears side, oh my God. Allen Robinson, 5,300. He's had an ankle injury and hasn't been practicing this week, so I don't know what's going on with him. And then Darnell Mooney, he's been limited with a groin injury, but he has been every week. So he's going to play this week. He's 4,300. If I had to play one of those guys, I'd probably take a flyer on Mooney. I can see the Bears maybe getting down a score or 2 in the second half and then having to throw back in it. I think this will be Fields' highest pass attempt game thus far this year. They're going to have to throw a little bit to beat Green Bay. So you're not going to be able to just run 40 times versus this team. So I don't mind Mooney. Maybe playing once or twice in a tournament, but not playing a ton of them. Sneaky play for this game, wide receiver Randall Cobb, $3,900. The Bears are susceptible to slot receivers. They have Duke Shelley in the slot. He's a scrappy young player, but he can be had. So I would not be surprised if Randall Cobb gets his own in this game. He's typically has his way with the Bears. The Bears. I'd like to have my way with the Bears. No, the Bears. He always kind of rips their heart out in some fashion. So watch out for Randall Cobb. I think they could attack the slot. That's how you beat the Bears defense with their pass rush, is the quick pass. So I could see Cobb having 7-8 receptions, as high as that. I think he's a sneaky play this week. So keep an eye on him. Tight ends, Bobby Tunyon, Robert Tunyon. Not really interested in him. Roquan Smith's been good in coverage this year, so no. And then the Bears tight ends, Kmet and Graham. No. I will say this: if you're like dying to play a bigger guy and you need a couple $100 and you have Seals Jones in there and you decide just to punt on the tight end position, Kmet is $2,800 and Jimmy Graham's $2,500. As of now, their ceiling is going to be a cheap red zone touchdown. So you could play Graham. It's Jimmy Graham's former team, and he doesn't like the Packers, so maybe he'll get some revenge. But yeah, so that's all I got on this one. Not stacking this game. I'll sprinkle in players here and there. Herbert I like. I think Adams is too highly priced for this, and watch Randall Cobb. That's just a cheap name I'm throwing out there. So let's get to the next game. Our next football game here is Ron's New York Football Giants playing host to the Los Angeles Rams, one of the best teams in the league this year. So looking at this game, it has a different feel to it now. So Daniel Jones got that bad concussion on Sunday, and I don't think people thought he was going to be ready. But from the report today, it sounds like Jones has cleared protocol, and Joe Judge expects Daniel Jones to play. So if Mike Glennon was starting, as a Bears fan and a former watcher of Mike Glennon, I would have told you to steer clear of any and all Giants. But now we have the possibility of maybe a competitive game here, so that kind of changes things. So at quarterback, we have Matt Stafford at $6,700. I think that's a fair price for his production. He's gone over 20 points the last 3 weeks on DK. So with Daniel Jones starting, I think this could be a more competitive game than people think. It's in New York. It's a cross-country trip for the Rams. So they could stay in it. So I don't mind Stafford this week, and I don't think his ownership is going to be that high. So I'll have a couple lineups this week with a Stafford Cup and Stafford Woods stack. So that doesn't bother me at all. And on the other side, you got Daniel Jones. He's $5,500. You saw he threw for 400 yards versus Saints. He was having a decent game versus the Cowboys before he got knocked out. So he's been playing at a high level this year. Who thought we'd be saying that? Don't let Ron hear this, even though he's going to. Daniel Jones, top 10 quarterback. But so he's viable. It's a tough matchup, but they are home again, and the Rams came across the country. Running back, you got Darrell Henderson, who the Giants, he's 6,000. He's facing the Giants, obviously, who have not been great against running back. So initially, as soon as their prices come out, I make a lineup instantly just to get a initial feel for the week. And I put Henderson in that lineup. And then, I don't know, I kind of cooled on it a little bit. He's 6,000. He hasn't surpassed 20 points, I don't believe, this year in DraftKings. And you saw Sony Michel get a little more involved last week. But I do think it's a competitive game, so I think he's going to play the whole game. I don't think the Rams are going to crush them and get out to a huge lead and then pound Michel to eat the clock. I don't think that's going to happen. So Henderson's definitely viable for $6,000. Devontae Booker is $5,400. Obviously, Saquon Barkley hurt his ankle. He won't be playing this game. So I won't be playing any Devontae Booker. It's a bad matchup versus the Rams. I could see him getting a lot of dump-offs from Daniel Jones and maybe scoring 4 or 5 receptions, but it's still, I'm just a little too intimidated by the Rams defense matching up against running backs, especially with Ramsey in the star role. He's always hovering around the backfield. So, yeah. As far as receivers, Cooper Kupp, $7,900. He's obviously been a beast this year. You have Robert Woods at $6,100. He had his coming out game last week on Thursday. So, that's a fair price for him for what he did last week. So I'm fine with either of these guys. I find myself, even though he's way more expensive, it just has a feeling of a cup game to me. I don't know why. So I have Cup in quite a few lineups this week, and Woods in a couple. I don't know. It's like they gave Woods what he wanted, and now I feel like Stafford's going to go back to Cup, but it's just a gut thing. I don't know. As far as the Giants side, you have Kadarius Toney, who's been red hot at 5,600, and let me tell you, this Kadarius Toney, if you're going to be punching cornerbacks and trash talk affects you that bad, wear some earbuds or something during the game, dude, because Jalen Ramsey's going to be barking at you the whole game. So don't be getting in any more fights. You'll screw over us fantasy managers. But yeah, Tony at 5,600. He's banged up. He's got an ankle that he's been dealing with. He's been limited all week, so I still think he'll probably play. I don't know how much that affects him, but I'll have him in a couple lineups. His price has gone up to 5,600, so I don't know. I'm not super attached to him. Yeah, just a couple lineups probably play him in, and then Sterling Shepard looks like he's gonna come back. So he's $5,000. This is the question, and another reason why I'm not crazy about Tony. Both of them kind of have the similar role of being in the slot and getting massive targets. So I think Tony is clearly the more talented player after watching him the past couple of weeks. But I don't know how they're going to reincorporate Shepard back into the offense. Is he just going to take that right back from Tony and they'll try and move him somewhere else? That's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know about the Giants pass catchers this week. I do think it's a competitive game, and someone probably will have a decent game. But I don't think anybody's going crazy in this one. Tight ends, Higbee, 4,400. He's okay. It'd be very low ownership. I have no interest in him really at this price point. You can get Seals Jones for 1,400 cheaper, and he'll probably get even more targets than Higbee. So, and then you got Evan Ingram, of course, for 3,400. Mr. Unpredictable himself. So, I'm playing this game a little bit. I think Stafford will be a lower ownership percentage, so I think you could maybe take advantage of that. Stack him with Kupp and Woods. Maybe play back with a Kadarius Toney, but it just depends how many lineups you have. I like some of the other games better, so it's not a bad game, but it'll be all right. On to the next game. So our next game, we have the Cincinnati Bengals heading to Detroit to take on the Lions. Let's get right into it. Quarterback prices, Joe Burrow, 6,300. Jared Goff tied with Fields for the cheapest option this week at 5,100. I don't mind Burrow this week. Obviously, the Lions have been subpar on defense as they have been for years. So I don't mind stacking Burrow with Chase or Higgins. Kind of fading Boyd a little bit. We'll get to that in a second. But I don't mind Burrow in this matchup. Goff, I'm not playing him in cash games, but if you're looking for like a sneaky option in a tournament play, I think game script wise, he could score points, and he's really cheap. He's 5,100. He's at home on the turf, so he could score 20 or so points, maybe even a little more, trying to get back into the game. Or even if this game is competitive, which I think it will be. You saw Dan Campbell crying after his post-game press conference last week, so. Obviously, this is going to be an emotional game. The Lions haven't won yet. They're at home. They really want to get that job done. So I think this game probably is a little bit of back and forth. Getting into running backs, Joe Mixon today, it came out from his OC that he's going to have a full workload this week. So obviously, I like him at the price 6,400. If he's getting 20 carries and going to get the passing down work, you got P. Ryan out. I don't know if they'll incorporate Chris Evans into the game plan as a pass catcher. It wouldn't surprise me if they did. But Mixon's in a spot here where he can smash at 6,400. And then I love DeAndre Swift this week at 6,300. I love him inside on the turf, playing fast. Probably, like I said, in either a competitive game or a game where they need to catch back up. So I think he'll have 5 to 7 receptions, probably score a touchdown. So I like him at 6,300 this week. Receivers, Jamar Chase is 6,700. His price has steadily gone up. I do like him in the spot. The Lions have no corners that are capable of covering him, so he could definitely stay hot. He's the clear-cut rookie of the year right now with the way the rookie quarterbacks have not been putting up numbers and have been struggling for the most part. T. Higgins, 5,300. He's a pretty good bargain, I think, for the mid-tier guys, but he just doesn't ever have those monster games. He needs like a multi-score game here to really surpass his price point, so I don't know if he gets that here. I don't have too much of him. Tyler Boyd, 5,400. When T. Higgins plays, he doesn't typically put up numbers, so I'm fading Tyler Boyd. On the Lions side of the ball, really the only receiver I want to talk about is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's getting like a quarter of the targets right now from Jared Goff, and he's only $4,200 in a game where they're probably going to have to throw the whole time, like I keep repeating. But I think that's a pretty good bargain for him. So keep an eye on Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was very involved last week, had quite a few receptions and targets. He could be in a spot here where he scores his first career touchdown. I can't remember if he has scored or not. I don't think he has, but I feel like he's going to score this game. So he's only 4,200. Tight ends, TJ Hawkinson is 5,000. He's been kind of plagued by a knee injury that's, I think, slowing him down a little bit. I'm not playing him at that price point. You could have Mark Andrews for just $200 more, so I'm not really interested in Hawkinson. Uzama is 3,100. Again, he had his random big game of the year, and now he's kind of gone into silent mode, so I don't want anything to do with him. Interesting point, quick here. The Lions defense is 2,100. I like that play a little bit. Like I said, that it's kind of an emotional game. They haven't won yet. They're at home. I could see a situation where they score 7 to 10 points, which is just what you want when you play them at 2,100. So just keep an eye on the Lions defense. I seem to have them in most lineups this week. Yeah, that's really it for this game. So on to the next game. So the next game is the Chargers at the Baltimore Ravens. So Chargers making the trip across the country to Maryland. So obviously that's something you need to consider when playing the Chargers guys. It's an earlier game. So again, it's bright and early for the Chargers players. Quarterbacks in this game, Lamar Jackson, 7,400. Justin Herbert, 7,300. I think those are fair prices, especially for Lamar. I'm actually surprised he's only 7,400. They must have developed the price before the Monday night game happened. I think Lamar will be one of the highest owned quarterbacks this week. So in tournaments, I think you'll see a very high ownership percentage. In cash too. So he's just going to be really highly owned this week. Running backs, you got Austin Eckler at 7,900. He has been smashing lately. And you have Latavius Murray at 5,700. I will not be touching Latavius Murray. Even though you can run on the Chargers, I just don't trust it, and he doesn't catch passes. So I don't really want any part of Latavius Murray. Eckler, on the other hand, I have been forcing him into my lineups. I think 7,900 is fair. He scored 30 the past couple of weeks. He's looked really good, and he's catching the ball out of the backfield like he always has. So he pretty much seems like a lock for 25 points this week at least. So I do like Eckler. Wide receivers, Mike Williams coming in at 8,100. He just keeps going up and up. He's ascending, but the problem is he's hurt. So I don't think he participated in practice Thursday. They're on West Coast practice. They haven't released the report yet since I'm recording this, so I'm not sure if he's going to practice Friday. But he has a knee injury, and he's kind of been plagued by knee injuries through his whole career. That's kind of what's held him back, really. So I'm not sure what's going on with this, but with that question mark and them traveling across the country for that price point, I'm not playing Mike Williams. Maybe that's crazy, the way he's had a monster year this year, but I'm not really playing him anywhere. So Keenan Allen is 6,300. I think that's fair, especially if Mike Williams misses. He's going to get peppered with targets. He already does, and he gets a lot of red zone targets. But if Williams misses, he's a lock to get a lot of work. So I don't mind Keenan Allen at all. Hollywood Brown, 5,900. One of the hottest receivers in the league right now. The problem is the Chargers have had the formula to take away the speedy receivers. So they have shut down both Henry Ruggs, Tyreek Hill. There's someone else that they shut down that's a speedy receiver. But Brandon Staley seems to have the formula to do that. So I don't like Brown that much in this. He's not crazily priced, so you can play him at 5,900 and stack him with Lamar, but I'm limiting the amount of times I do that. Another note, Rashad Bateman is activated from the IR, and he will be playing. This will be his NFL debut. He's priced out at 3,000, so he's the minimum. So if you want to take a flyer on him in a tournament or something, I wouldn't blame you for that. I'm not sure how many snaps he's going to get. I'd assume it's like limited snap count for him, but he's only $3,000, so he could be a cheap filler too in your flex. Tight end, Mark Andrews, 5,200. He's going to be played a ton. Him and Seals Jones will probably be the two most played tight ends this week. So I definitely have a couple lineups from stacking Lamar and Andrews. So I like his outlook this week, especially with the Chargers specializing in taking away the fast receivers. I think the middle of the field will probably be pretty open. Andrews could have a busy game again like he did on Monday night. Chargers side, for tight end, you got Jared Cook at 3,200. I'll play him a couple times. He's definitely a red zone threat. Herbert trusts him. He's just not getting that volume that you'd like to see, so he's a riskier play, but I don't have a problem if you want to play him. So that's really it for this game. I think it's going to have a pretty high ownership. This game and the Chiefs football team game will probably be the two most stacked games. I know Joe and Ron went back and forth about Lamar and Herbert, who they thought would have a bigger game. Joe went with Herbert. Ron went with Lamar. I'm going to side with Ron on this one. I think Lamar at home outdoes Herbert points-wise, but I could be wrong. Herbert's had a great year. He's looked sharp. But with Mike Williams banged up and traveling across the country, I like Lamar a little bit better in this one. So that'll do it for this game. Let's move on to our next game. So our next game is the Minnesota Vikings at the Carolina Panthers. The big news on this game, Christian McCaffrey is out again. So he had a setback with his hamstring. He will not be playing. So Chuba Hubbard will be starting again for the Panthers. So let's get into it. The quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, 6,200. Darnold, 6,100. So every year, Kirk Cousins has had like a terrible September and then starts picking it up in October. This year, he decided to do things in reverse. He had an amazing September statistically, and then the past couple weeks, he's looked pretty pedestrian. So he's playing a Carolina team that has been pretty sound on defense. I know last week they gave up some points, but for the most part, they're pretty sound. So I'm not a big fan of Cousins this week at 6,200. On the other side of the ball, we got Darnold at 6,100. I don't mind Darnold. The Vikings defense is nothing scary at all. They have really fallen from where they were a few years ago. So I wouldn't have a problem playing Darnold. I probably won't do it. He's just not really that trustworthy. And there's other options, I think, similarly priced that could outdo him. So I'm not playing a lot of Darnold. Running backs, Dalvin Cook practiced fully today, so he will be playing. He is 7,700. Carolina's been pretty stout against the run, so I'm not sure how he'll fare. I do think his ownership will be pretty low, so he's kind of a sneaky play in a weird way, even though it's Dalvin Cook. I don't think a lot of people will trust him, and they'll see the little red number next to the Panthers' run defense and probably be steered away from it. So I'll have a couple lineups with Cook. I'm not playing a ton of them, but just for his upside, you could play him easily. Panther side of the ball, as I said, McCaffrey's out, so Chuba Hubbard is 5,900. That's not bad at all, especially for his role last week. He had 100 yards rushing, got most of the work, and then he had, 5-6 receptions. So he just needs to get in the end zone. So I'd like to see him find the end zone this week. But for 5,900 versus Vikings defense at home, I have no problem playing Chuba Hubbard. I'll play him a couple times around. And as far as receivers, I love DJ Moore this week. I love him, especially with McCaffrey out. He's going to get his targets. He's going to be the one. The Vikings corners have been terrible, so he can definitely get the better of them. I really like DJ Moore this week. I've got him probably in 3/4 of my lineups. I just think he's in a spot here where he could potentially even have a career day. I don't know. It's just a gut thing. I just think Moore has a really big game on Sunday. So you'll see my lineup that I'm going to show later will feature him. Justin Jefferson comes in at 8,000. Carolina's corners aren't, that crazy. I should know this. I don't know what's going on with Stephon Gilmore. I don't know if he's back or not. I should know this. But I don't. I apologize. But I'm not really interested in Jefferson at 8K. I played him last week and he burned me because he didn't score. So I'm holding a little bit of a grudge. But it's not a tremendous matchup for him. I do think he could have a game, but I'm just fading him a little bit. Adam Thielen, 5,800. He's been due for a big game for a while. Just hasn't gotten it done. So I'm not too drawn into the Vikings pass catchers this week. Cousins hasn't looked good, and it's a kind of a tough matchup in Carolina. So fading Thielen, and then Robbie Anderson is down to $4,800. That's not a bad price. He just can't get it done. Him and Darnold just can't get in sync. So one of these weeks he's going to have a big game, and someone will be lucky enough to play him. I probably won't play him this week, but he's definitely a viable deep threat and could smash any week with his ability and his speed. So we'll see. Tight ends, Conklin, 3,200. I won't play any of him. And Tommy Tremble, he's 2,600. If you're punting on tight end and need to save a couple $100 to play someone in the meat of your lineup, he's a viable option. He's kind of a bit of a red zone threat for the Panthers now, so you could throw him in, but I probably won't play him. So that's really it for this game. Not a bad game, just I don't think it'll be very popular on the slate. I love DJ Moore, though. That's my main takeaway from this game. So let's roll to the next game. All right, so our next game, we're dipping into the afternoon games. We got Arizona going to Cleveland to face the Browns. Before I get into this, just something for the listeners, especially if you're new to DFS. So a lot of times people that are new to DFS will just go through and, click, oh man, this guy is facing the 30th ranked pass defense or the 27th ranked run defense. This is a great matchup. Well, one thing that people forget to look at is the weather. So this game projects to have pretty high winds. I think it's like 17 to 20 mile an hour winds right now in the forecast. So just keep an eye on that. That's something you need to look at. Even when you're doing your regular fantasy lineups, you got to check the weather, because if you have a pass catcher that you're toying with putting in the flex, if their game is forecasting high winds and rain, you need to pivot to something else. So just keep an eye on that. The deep ball could be affected by the weather a little bit in this game. So that's just something to look at. So as far as pricing, the quarterbacks, Kyler Murray is 7,900 and Baker Mayfield is 5,900. I'm actually staying away from both. Maybe I'm crazy because I'm not considering Kyler Murray, but between the weather and then the weird thing with his shoulder, I don't know. Last year we saw him having this crazy season like he started this year, and then he hurt his shoulder and he wasn't the same. So he was seen like holding his shoulder like during the game and stuff, like something was going on with that, and then he's been limited in practice this week. So that's just kind of sketchy. Baker Mayfield, I have no interest at all in playing whatsoever. And then let's get into the running backs. Nick Chubb is out, we saw, so it seems like it's a smash spot for Kareem Hunt. He's 6,200 with Chubb out. He's going to be highly owned, so he's going to be what they say is chalky. So a lot of people are going to play him. So that's just something to consider when setting your lineups, but he's definitely in a spot where you can have a monster game. Chase Edmonds, 5,600. And James Conner, 5,500, want no part of either of them. I know some people say to stack Edmonds with Kyler Murray. It's a popular thing to do, but he doesn't score touchdowns, and Conner steals all the goal line work. They just cancel each other out, so I don't ever play either of them. DeAndre Hopkins is 7,800. He's been out all week so far with an illness, which is kind of sketchy because Chandler Jones has COVID, and then there's these like two other people that have COVID that they won't release the names, and then Hopkins is out with an illness. I hope it's not him that has COVID, but it could be, so just definitely something to monitor. Odell Beckham is 5,100. I just can't play him. Like, him and Baker, he needs to get out of Cleveland. I honestly don't know how good Beckham is anymore. I think he could be a little overrated, but I don't know. He's always hurt. He can't get in sync with Baker Mayfield. So, I won't be playing any Beckham. I just cannot trust him. Christian Kirk is interesting at 5,000 to me. I think this could be a Kirk game, just a gut thing. I just feel like with the weather and Murray's shoulder bothering him, that Kirk could work in the slot a little bit and have a decent game. AJ Green, 4,900. I just am not drawn to AJ Green. I probably won't play him much. And then Rondell Moore at 4,600. I think that's what he was last week, if I'm not mistaken. Again, you could see a situation if Kyler's shoulder's really bothering him and the weather is somewhat bad. There could definitely be some shorter yak designed plays for Rondell Moore. So something just tells me that Moore or Kirk are going to go off this game, like have a big one. So in tournament lineups, I'm kind of alternating those two and playing them around a little bit. So just something to keep an eye on. Tight ends, Njoku's banged up. He was limited today. I think he's probably going to play. He's coming off his career game. He's 3,700. I'm not playing him. I just can't trust him. Austin Hooper is 2,800. One of the biggest mysteries in the NFL is why the Cleveland Browns paid him $42 million to not catch passes. So we're 5 games in. He doesn't even have 100 yards receiving, and I think he has 1 touchdown. Like, why is he one of the highest paid tight ends in the league if this is how you're using him? So, yeah, I don't really know. So I'm obviously not playing him. And that's really it for this game, I think. So this game will probably be, I would guess it's probably the 3rd most popular game behind the Chargers, Ravens, and the football team and Chiefs. I think it'll probably be played a little bit. I don't have a ton of it. I'll have a little bit of Hunt. I'm not playing Hopkins really. Maybe that's a mistake, but he has not put up the numbers for his big price tags. So I'm not really interested in Hopkins until he shows that he's going to be that volume monster again. And like I said, Kirk and Moore, I don't have a problem sneaking them into your lineup as mid-tier guys. So I like them a little bit, but it's mostly Hunt out of this game. So it's not a bad game to play. It'll be interesting to see if the weather cleans up or not. And keep an eye on the COVID stuff with the Cardinals. It's definitely something to monitor. So also, I made a short before this video, but Zach Ertz was traded to the Cardinals, so he's not eligible to play this week. It's a CBA rule that you can't play more than 1 game in a NFL week. So he already played, obviously, Thursday, and good for him getting in the end zone one last time in Philly. He's done a lot of good things for that city, so I hope he I just like the player, as a fan of the NFL. I hope he does well in Arizona. So that's just a side note. So let's get on to the next game. All right, so our second to last game, we have the Las Vegas Raiders going to play the Denver Broncos. I'm not too interested in this game. Teddy Bridgewater, 5,700. Derek Carr, 5,600 for the quarterback position. I'm not playing either of them. The Raiders have all the personal stuff, the distractions. There's going to be a new guy calling plays. It'll be Greg Olsen calling plays for Carr. And then Bridgewater, I've historically just kind of explained my thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater, how he's a game manager, and I don't think you can get very far with him, but that's another story. But yeah, so either of these quarterbacks I'm not touching. Running backs. So the Raiders, you have Josh Jacobs. He's been sick, but I believe he returned to practice Friday, so I'm pretty sure he's good to go. He's historically played pretty well against the Broncos, but the Raiders line has just not run blocked well for him, so I have no interest whatsoever in Josh Jacobs. Melvin Gordon, 5,100. Can I just say this? Go away, Melvin Gordon. Go away.
Go away.
Melvin Gordon. You got Javonte Williams for 5,000, but if Melvin Gordon just got traded, if the Broncos just traded him, get something out of him, trade him. There's teams that need running backs. Trade him. Javonte Williams would be a stud fantasy running back. He has these explosive runs. He looks better. He's a good pass catcher. I just want to see him get the opportunity to be the guy for Denver. And I think if he got the volume and the carries, he could just put up crazy numbers. But Melvin Gordon is just there eating half the work. It's so frustrating. So, yeah, my rant is over. But I do like Javonte Williams a little bit this week. I know that Gordon is a little banged up. So we'll see if the exact 50-50 split continues. But you just saw the Bears gash the Raiders last week. The Raiders' run defense is nothing to be afraid of. So I do think that the Broncos will establish a run in this game. One of these guys is going to run in a touchdown this week. So I don't mind Javonte Williams for $5,000. I would probably do that in a tournament. But yeah, other than that, I'm not really interested in any of the backs in this game. Wide receivers, Henry Ruggs, 5,200. He's due for a big one. I think this is probably a competitive back and forth game, so I could see him catching a bomb or two. So I think he's kind of a sneaky play in tournaments, but I'm not playing a ton of him, but I can just see him catching a deep ball. It's kind of a gut thing, but I'd probably stay away from him for the most part. And then Sutton is 6,200 coming off a big game. The Raiders corners are banged up and not very intimidating. The best part of the Raiders defense so far has been their pass rush with Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue. I'm not really sure about Sutton. I don't really have interest in him. He's at 6,200, so he's like only $100 cheaper than Keenan Allen. I'd rather play Keenan Allen personally. So I don't really have interest in Sutton. Tim Patrick, 5,100. He's just kind of a safe play. There's a stat out there that he hasn't dropped a pass. I can't remember it, but he's just a reliable receiver. He's 5,100, another mid-tier guy in that range. I'd personally rather play Ruggs at 5,200 than Patrick because Ruggs has the big play ability that Patrick does not. So I probably won't have any Tim Patrick. Hunter Renfrow, 4,900. Doesn't excite me at all. Just a slot security guy that doesn't score touchdowns. So no interest in Hunter Renfrow. Tight ends, Darren Waller, 6,600. He is the second most expensive tight end to only Travis Kelce. Something just tells me that Waller is due for a big one. And Carr has kind of had a rough couple weeks, and usually when that happens, he likes to lean on Waller to get back on track. So he's expensive, but if you roll the dice on him, he could definitely pay off for you this week. I probably won't do it until I see it again. He's really cooled down. He's been nagged by a knee injury. So just another, I keep saying this, but gut instinct. I feel like Waller could be in a decent spot here. Noah Fant, 4,800. I have no interest in that. These mid-tier tight ends, I'm not really interested. Kind of the trend of the season for tight ends in DFS, it's either like the really cheap guys like Seals Jones that you're punting on the position so you can load up in other spots, or you're playing the higher end guys, the Mark Andrews, the Travis Kelce's that are more surefire things. So when you drop 4,800 on a tight end that has historically had bust games, it's just, I don't like doing that. So that's really it for this game. Not a whole lot of interest in it. Like I said, I'll have a couple shares of Javonte Williams just as a sneaky play and Ruggs as a sneaky play. But other than that, nothing in this game really excites me. It's not a very high over-under. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, let's get on to our last game. All right, our last game we're going to cover, it is the Dallas Cowboys heading to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. My peer hosts talked about this game for quite a while on yesterday's episode, but let's go over it. Pricing quarterbacks, Mac Jones, 5,200. I have no interest in playing Mac Jones, even though Joe was kind of talking him up a little bit. I don't really like him in this spot here, and he obviously doesn't run at all. Dak Prescott, 7,100. I probably won't pay up for him either. Maybe I'm naive to just kind of write Dak Prescott off, but he has not been throwing a lot, and then playing in Foxborough, it's a tougher place to play. Belichick usually has a defense pretty sound at home, so I don't think he's in a spot where he's just going to go crazy. Zeke is also 7,100. Tony Pollard's 5,600. So Dallas backs priced pretty much where they were last week. Pollard is the same price. You can play Zeke with as hot as he's been. I probably won't. I think a lot of people probably won't. He said that questionable tag next to him all week too, so people are probably I don't know. It's not a very appealing play for whatever reason, but so he's kind of sneaky if you want to put him in a lineup, but I probably won't play too much of him. Pollard, I don't really have any interest in. Damian Harris is 5,200 this week. He's been limited. I'm not even sure he's going to play. Brandon Bolden comes in at 4,700. I have no interest in the Patriots running backs either. Getting to the receivers, CeeDee Lamb is 6,500. Cooper is 6,000 even. Again, I'm not drawn to this game. I probably won't play these guys, honestly. I don't think they're going to have a crazy good game. It just doesn't typically happen in Foxborough. Jacoby Myers, you got to score, man. When are you finally going to score?
This is it, Beavis. We're finally going to score. Thank God.
Someday he's going to get a touchdown. I don't know when it'll be, but I'd like to see it happen. So Jacoby Myers, 5,500. I won't play any of him because he has not scored a touchdown yet. He's kind of like Hunter Renfrow, a safe floor guy that's going to have some catches, but just doesn't score touchdowns. Tight ends, Dalton Schultz. I do want to correct something that Joe said yesterday. He really kind of spat at Dalton Schultz. If you have Dalton Schultz on your fantasy team, you're probably going to start him. It means you don't have one of the top guys and you added him. He's really proven to be the number 3 receiver for Dallas so far this year. So if you have Schultz, in my opinion, if you don't have Kelsey or one of the bigger guys, you're probably starting him. And then on the other side of the ball, Hunter Henry, 3,900. He's been hot. Him and Mac Jones kind of have a chemistry building, so he's a decent play. Neither of these tight ends I don't think will have a high ownership, so they're both viable. But I'm just laying off this game. I don't have interest in it. So yeah, that's it. Let's take a look at my favorite lineup that I've created here. All right, so as you can see, I went with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. I just think he's in a spot where he's going to smash again. He's at home facing a West Coast team coming across the country, so I really like his outlook this week. I pick him over Herbert. Sorry, Joe. Running back, I got Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb is not playing. Obviously, if something comes up with Hunt or he has to miss, I'll adjust. But I really like his position this week at home. Kind of windy day. I think he could get rolling on the ground and eat up the Cardinals a little bit. Also have DeAndre Swift at home versus the Bengals. I like him whether they're up or down. He's going to get work. He's a great pass catcher, obviously. And he's been getting the goal line touches too. So I like him at 6,300. I'm rolling with him. Wide receiver, Keenan Allen, I'm rolling him back against Lamar Jackson in a stack of that game. Mike Williams seems to be really banged up since we started this pod. Or not this pod, I guess it is a pod, but we found out that Mike Williams, again, did not participate Friday, so it's kind of a grim outlook for him. Continuing at receivers, I just played Moore by himself here. DJ Moore, that is, the first Moore. As I said, I love him in this spot. I really like his outlook against the Vikings. I think he's in line for a monster day, so I have him in lineups everywhere. Rondale Moore, another Moore, just kind of an upside play. I just have a gut feeling that he's going to have a couple big plays in this game, so I'm rolling with him. Tight end, I stacked Mark Andrews with Lamar Jackson. So in that game, I have Jackson and Andrews stacked with Keenan Allen coming back against them. And then in my flex spot, I rolled with Khalil Herbert, 4,600. He's going to get 15 to 20, maybe even up to 25 touches this game. He's going to catch passes, whether people know it or not. So, and then I punted defense. So yeah, that was it, guys. That was my lineup. Crazy part about that lineup is the only player I have from the Chiefs and football team game is the defense for the Washington football team. So obviously that's not my only lineup. I have lineups that have that game stacked. It just happened to be a game where I stacked the Chargers and Ravens. So if you want more lineups or, have any questions, I'll probably tinker with lineups all weekend. If you have any questions, just let me know on Twitter. I'll put my Twitter handle right here. Hit me up, DM me, whatever you want to do, and we'll figure your lineups out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's our first time doing a DFS show. I think I hit an hour on this, so I didn't expect to go that long, but I'm kind of a blabbermouth when it comes to football. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out the podcast. Obviously, our biggest platform is YouTube, but we're on. We have our own website, garbagetimeff.com. We are on Spotify. We are on Simplecast. I can't remember all of them, but in our outro video, you can see where we're found. Also, don't forget to listen to Ryan on the Garbage Time Presents, the MMA podcast. He did really well his picks Saturday. He kicked my ass, that's for sure. So maybe I got to hop on his pod and learn a little bit from him on MMA, but it's fun. So enjoy, guys. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week. Good luck this weekend.